Afternoon. Oh, it's the end of the week. I'm going to finish one more book that'll be up there for Earth Day. This is by Graeme. He's one of my favourite all-time author illustrators. It's called Uno's Garden. Uno's Garden. I've taken the dust jacket off, so I'm going to read from what it says about Graeme. I know I've read a little bit about him already and showed you some of his books, including Animalia, and then we read My Grandma Lived in Gooley Gulch. Graeme Base, a four-time New York Times best-selling author, is one of the world's leading creators of picture books. His alphabet book, Animalia, received international acclaim when it was first published in 1986 and has achieved classic status with worldwide sales of more than 2 million copies. And I suspect there's a lot more than 2 million since the time this book was published, which is Uno's Garden came to us. It's going to be one of those ones where the information is at the back. Uno's Garden came to us in 2006, so it's 14 already. 14, it's in high school. All right, so this one is called Uno's Garden by Graeme. Published by Abrams Books for Young Readers. The animals go by one, 100 plants, then there were none. And all the while the buildings double. This numbers game adds up to trouble. But if you count with utmost care, and trust me that they all are there, you'll go from 10 to nothing then, the whole way back to 10 again. And there's a little poem at the front that tells you to look for things everywhere, and there's all kinds of hidden clues and number counting in this book. And so this is for Earth Day, and it reminds me of little bit of, obviously, it's in the same vein as Dr. Seuss's The Lorax and Bill Peet Wump World. Uno arrived in the forest on a beautiful day at the very beginning of spring. There to welcome him were 10 magnificent moopaloops and one completely ordinary snortle pig. Uno loved the forest so much he decided to live there. There's the moopaloops, and here's the snortle pig. And up here you can see lots of counting going on. If you have time to look and pause on the book, I'll go in closely and you can do that later. Uno climbed above the treetops. The forest seemed to go on forever. Swinging through the branches were 9 leaping lumpy bums and the completely ordinary snortle pig. To look closely, I hope I've given you enough of the book to see Uno off in the distance, and you have to find where the snortle pig is hiding because there's more things coming out now. We see Uno sitting at the top of the hill, and there's the numbers game with the plants. Others followed Uno. They loved the forest too. They built houses and boats, watched by 8 feathered frinklepods, and the snorkel pig, of course. Uno began work on a little garden. The fishermen's children played games among the trees. They counted 7 playful puddle-butts, but 1 snortle pig. Plus 1 snortle pig. A little village grew. Okay. Some hunters went into the forest looking for sneaky snaggle bites. There were 6, but the hunters didn't catch them or the snortle pig. With my fingers. Tourists came. They saw 5 timid tumbletops, but that was all. Uno kept working in his garden, The village became a town. You see what's happening. The forest is getting cut down, things are being built. Then the railway was built. Excited passengers watched for wild animals. They caught a glimpse of 4 grazing gondolopes. And what was that other funny-looking creature back there? The town had become a city. A team of scientists arrived to study the animals. 3 flippered flipper flaps was all they found. See how the numbers are counting down? The city grew bigger and bigger, and the forest grew smaller and smaller. Some workers came across 2 pointy pricklebacks. They had never seen anything like them. A lone fisherman set his line in the river. He caught a car tyre, several old boots, and a cold. He didn't see the snorkel pig. In fact, nobody had seen one for so long, people weren't even sure they existed. One grey morning, the people of the city woke up, looked out over the endless buildings, and were sad. Why do we live in a place like this? They asked themselves. There are no trees. So they left. The city was dark and abandoned. Uno opened his door and looked out. Sitting there in the garden, among the plants that Uno had saved, was a snorkel pig, completely ordinary in every way, except that it was there. The snorkel pig lived in Uno's garden for many years. The city crumbled, forgotten. The snorkel pig grew old and died, and so did Uno. But the garden lived on. Uno's children continued to care for the little collection of trees and plants, and slowly the forest returned. The children kept a diary of their discoveries. 2 pointy bricklebacks, 3 flippered flipper flaps. Four grazing gondolopes, 5 timid tumbletops, over the years, Uno's grandchildren added to the list. 6 sneaky snagglebites, 7 playful puddlebutts. With my fingers, I can do the counting game if you want to later. Their grandchildren added to the list too. 8 feathered frinklepods, 9 leaping lumpy bums. Ten magnificent moopaloops. And on a beautiful day at the very beginning of spring, now I don't know quite how this is going to work, so we have to be patient, because this is going to go like that. So we have to bring it across to here for you to see. And then You open this one too. And this one goes all the way here. So we'll go all the way across like that. Oops, and then we'll open that. That's very hard. It's a very spectacular illustration, but it's hard to show it as a read aloud, especially when you're doing it on screen Castify. But you get the idea, and hopefully if you like it enough, you'll go and look for this book. It is quite glorious. Stories were told of the days when an extraordinary creature had lived in Uno's garden. Children listened with wide eyes, and they never stopped believing that one day they would see a real live snorkel pig for themselves. Boop. On the back here it explains all the numbers game, all the things that you can find and what you can do by counting all of them. Okay, so that's also one of my favourites. I used to read that a lot. I read that a lot to preschoolers because there's great, wonderful illustrations and interesting new make-believe animals. But the point is the same as the Lorax and as Wump World, is that if we just keep cutting things down, things disappear. And eventually, if we stop, things start to come back. So as we've already seen with us having to stay home a lot, the air quality is much better. There are less cars on the road. And in some places where the parks have been closed, the bears and the animals are coming back out because there's not millions of humans treading on all their grass and habitats. Okay, so there we go. Uno's Garden. I hope you enjoyed that one by one of my favourite all-timers, Graeme Base. Clicking off for the rest of the weekend.